Wow, okay. I did it. Hey, welcome to another episode of Rennch. I'm Michael. That right there behind me is my 1969 911, powered by a Subaru EZ30R flat 6 motor. Right now, that engine is hanging by two jacks. By the end of this video, that engine will be hanging of its own volition. Question for you. Have any other YouTube channels about cars use the word volition? Okay, in this engine cradle series, I have created these, which are my mounts to go to the car. I've taken 2.5-inch pipes, run them from the front transmission mounts to the engine cradle, and now I have to make the two outriggers that go side to side. So in this video, I've got to do a couple different things. The main thing is, I have to bend these tubes at the end, so they go into the cradle here, and then they swoop up, and then I will weld them to these mounts. Now, I've never bent a tube before, so for you guys that are fabricators, don't make fun of me too much. I have a Harbor Freight tubing bender. I've got to bend these tubes, and I'll show you how I'm going to determine how much to bend them. And then I have to notch these pipes correctly, which also I've never done that much of an angle. So now I'm going to take you under the car. I'm going to show you what my plan is for the day, and you can watch me flounder and or execute on that plan. By the way, if you are brand new to the channel as of December 2020, thanks for being here. For those of you guys watching in the future, hopefully you see this car doing badass things. Okay, let's go figure this out. So the plan is that that steel mount has to go down to that hole. So what I've got here is a test tube, and I want to run this thing at about that angle, and then I want to curve the tube at the bottom so that it goes straight into the mount. So to do that, I've got my handy dandy angle finder. So what I want to do is get the angle right so that it clears this lip and then comes down, but then goes straight into this tube. And that looks to me, it's right around here. It looks like it's about 130 degrees. So now my plan is to take the tube and do a bend that is 130 degrees so that this thing will go straight into the mount and then give me the right angle to weld on. This is a super cheap Harbor Freight tubing bender that I've never used. So the move, according to people that know such things, if you don't want the pipe to pinch, and I did a demo here where I tried to bend a piece of aluminum, you see how it's pinched in the middle? You can prevent that, apparently, by filling the pipe with sand. And what that does is it doesn't allow, if you really pack it in like you're loading a musket, if you pack it in there, it doesn't allow the pipe to compress as you're pinching it up with this thing. So I've got some sand in the backyard, I've got some good Gorilla Tape, I got a funnel, and I'm gonna go try to fill this sucker with some sand. All right, taped up. All right, I'm taped up on each end. It feels pretty firm in there, so I'm gonna mark this where I want the center of the bend to be, and I'm gonna use my cool little yellow pen for that. I'm also gonna try to make a mark that keeps the pipe straight up and down. Like I wanna be able to see the top of the pipe so it doesn't twist one way or the other. All right, that did not go as planned. It was super frustrating for a number of reasons. Number one, I couldn't find my dies. I literally looked for like an hour. These things aren't small. They're like big, giant chunks of metal, and I couldn't find them to save my life. Turned out I put them in a drawer at my workbench outside. Took me an hour to find them. Anyway, the other challenge was where I was bending the pipe, there wasn't enough on this side to get the bend where I wanted it. I wanted like a nice tight bend right at the end here, and I literally couldn't. The pipe wasn't long enough to make that work. And then third, this thing still pinched way more than I wanted it to. Let's see if you guys can see this. See this kind of pinch action? I did not want that much pinch. Now it would still work. I'm gonna try something else for the next one. I'm gonna try to bend it a little closer. I'll try to do that. And then I'm actually gonna try to pack it full of sand, and I'm gonna wet the sand down, which I'm hoping is gonna give me more of a pack and prevent the pinch. Prevent the pinch. All right, second turnaround. This time I'm gonna try something a little different. I have packed the crap out of this tube. It is so tight with sand. I even put water in the sand. So I'm feeling like if it's gonna pinch, it's just gonna pinch. The other thing is I marked the center line, and then I marked in 1-inch increments. And my thought is, if I can put the center of the pump in the middle of those inch increments, I can try to preserve the pipe from smushing down too much. I have more wiggle room in general, and I'm gonna try to start with a bit of a smaller die. So we'll see. We'll see how this thing goes. Again, we wing it. That's what we do here. Okay, so I've been struggling with bending this pipe for like 2 hours. I cannot stress to you how much of a piece of crap this tool is. Besides the flex everywhere, the screw snapped, and I got to get the screw out and put a bolt through there that'll hopefully hold. And then get back to this. The good news is the pipe itself is bending fairly well. I'm a long way off from my 130 degrees. I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I just got a while. I gotta fix this dumb tool first. Okay, that took so hilariously too long, but I did finally get it. So I've got it in the mount. It's going up, and it's sort of resting to the side right now of this mount. I will obviously trim this, probably here-ish, and mark it up so I know exactly where to cut it. But the good news is I have to do another one. So I'm going to work on that for the next 17 hours and try to mimic what I did with this one. But overall, I'm actually really happy with the fit. It's just a matter of kind of trimming it and getting it to sync up well here, and then, weldy weld. Here's a little trick I discovered as I was marking this one out, which is just to drag this across the top. Try not to let this thing rotate too much. That gives me a nice mark to follow in the dead center of the tube. Okay, I feel like I've grown a beard here and I've aged, but I've got these two tubes, pretty darn close. I mean, they're not exactly perfect. The bends aren't in the exact same place on both, but this is just a prototype, and I mean, it's pretty darn close. I'm not complaining. It's a millimeter or two. It's not crazy. Anyway. This is going to be a prototype that I'm going to make a jig out of. So for all intents and purposes, these are good to go. I'm going to pull these, drain the sand, clean this whole mess up that I've just made. Looks like I'm on the beach. And begin the process of fitting these things up so I can, finally cut them and weld them. All right, it is the next day, and here's where I left off. I had to walk away from it because that stupid tubing bender was so frustrating. Here's where I am. I've got my two pipes. These are very closely bent and cut. and I'm going to work on notching them out, and then I'll be able to tack weld them in. What I haven't done yet is just made sure that the engine is perfectly centered in its spot. So I'm gonna do that now before I do anything. Probably gonna watch the how to notch out a steep tubing video a few more times just to make sure it's in my head. And then I'm gonna notch out these two because I don't wanna have to use that tubing bender again. So, as an aside, it's freezing here. Well, freezing, it's all relative. It's 56. But it's been pissing rain all day here, which doesn't usually happen here in Southern California, but we need it, so stop it. All right, let's measure this thing and cut these suckers and get them tacked on. All right, I think I'm really close here. I've gone back and forth too many times to count, but this thing, I feel like is really good. All right, looks like I need one more round. In fact, I'm gonna bring my other sander in here. It ends up being right here that I have to carve out just a little bit more to make a better, straighter angle here so that it really snugs up to the mount. All right, here we are there, party people. Look at that fit. Looking good. Now, I captured just a brief moment of the fitment. I went back and forth 20 times, you know, to get this thing square. But this is how it looks in there. Looks really good. Now, I'm going to actually take this piece and we're going to check it against the other side. And we're going to see if I am even. I hope I'm even enough. If I am, I'm going to do this in one take. And if I'm not, I'm going to cut it. Okay. All right. Here's this. And yeah. Look at that. Snug as a bug in a rug. Now, in theory, I should be able to cut these remainders pretty quickly. I've made these center lines represented by the circles. And I'm going to now be able to trace the angles on this one. Pretty straightforward. All right, here we are. Now, these aren't completely, totally exact. There's a little bit of difference here up top, but they're really close. The throats line up really good. And the bases don't really matter because they slide inside, but for a guy making it by hand, these things are pretty darn similar. Now that those are good, I'm going to get under the car one more time and measure from the hole to the mount, from the hole to the mount. Make sure that's even. Who am I kidding? I'll probably measure it 9 more times. And once that's good, I'm going to actually tack the post on each side on the underside. The idea is, if I need to, I can always lower it, but it's really hard to raise it. You know, I can always put washers in and lower the thing down. So one thing I should probably point out to you guys is the angle of the engine as I do this. So let me show you guys something really quick. If you see here, this part of the engine is actually a little bit higher than that part. The engine's on a slight angle down, and that's because Chris from Outfront Motorsports mentioned that the oil sump needs to pull from that end of the oil tank at the bottom. So the feed is over there. So we want the oil to run forward on the engine. Now, thankfully, I can still adjust my transmission if I need to. The engine is not completely secure once this thing is up, although I think I can get rid of this jack. I may not be able to get rid of my transmission jack, but the idea, though, is that if I need to, I can always lower with washers. I can put washers here, or I can even stagger them this way, front to back. But for now, we're going to measure from here to here a couple more times, and then clean this thing up and stick a couple of tacks in and get moving on this sucker. I grabbed a piece of pipe and I did a few test beads on this tubing, and I had a lot more success cranking the wire speed up than I thought I would. So there's actually some really nice clean welds in here. So I'm going to run with what I've got and let's tack it up. All right, dudes, I am tacked up here. It's not so bad. It's a decent looking weld. I've got it tacked on each side. Now I've got to unbolt the entire thing. Lower this jack by putting the transmission on a jack stand. Pull the entire frame out and then weld the whole thing up. Yes! All right there, doodlies, here we are. Just visually, it looks really symmetrical. He's like, what's up? The other thing I really like is that I can hit it with my foot and I don't get the ding, ding, ding indicating that it's warped in any way. So it looks really good. The welds were a billion times better. I'll explain more about that, but they look a lot better this time than they did the first time. And let's see, hard to explain. Here they are. I'm just kidding, those are the first ones. But there are definitely some good little beads in there. And I'll explain how I got there. I'm gonna go put a new grinding disc wheel on and grind this thing down, and then stick it back in the car, and then we'll do a little post-mortem. Okay, this is the moment of truth. If this works, I can take this jack away and this engine will stay where it is. If it doesn't, then brace yourself. Okay. Okay, engine is free, but hopefully feels stable-ish. Transmission is resting on the crossbar. Everything in there is pretty clear. Okay, here we go. Let's go up. Release the jack. All right. Months of work. Come on, baby. Let's get this. Let's get this. Oh shit. There it is. Yeah, there it is. There it is. There it is. Looks good too. It looks level as shit. Wow. It looks really good, you guys. Wow, okay. I did it. That's straight. That's straight. It's got a little flex. So the front of the transmission is not, you know, bolted in yet. So that's going to change. It's going to stiffen the engine significantly left and right. But it's in, you guys. Holy shit. That is the sight of a Subaru EZ30 mounted in a Porsche 911. Look at you guys. That's so awesome. It's great. The angle is great. I've got my little angle there. These things came out awesome. Oh man, I'm stoked. Plenty of room for activities. Look at all that turbo room. Wow. Awesome. I am so stoked, you guys. Look at that. I don't need that shit anymore. That is so sick. Yeah. That is so awesome. I made that with these hands. Now, for those of you who have done this many times, good on you. This is the first time I've ever done this, so I'm so stoked. It looks so good. Check out the wheel gap. Look at that. It's like the gap comes down because there's weight in the engine. My door jambs, you know, the quarter panels I welded on, they haven't shifted. I was totally worried about that. But, I mean, this is so rad. I can't even tell you. Yeah. So, boom. I will work on the next video, I think probably to secure the front transmission, but really, we got to get to those beautiful CSF radiators, so that's probably going to be the next episode. You guys, especially the new ones, you guys, thanks for hanging out. If you guys are new here in December 2020 when the channel kind of went, good to see you. Thanks for being here. This is the Blasphemy build. I'm Michael. We'll see you next time.